The conference room went silent when Marcus Webb laid the document on the table. It was wrapped in plastic. The paper inside yellowed to the color of weak tea, but the state seal was still visible through the protective sleeve. The irrigation company's attorney looked at it, then at Marcus, then back at the document. Her pen stopped moving. "That's not possible," she said. Marcus's father, sitting beside him, said nothing. At 76, Raymond Webb had learned that silence made other people nervous. 6 weeks earlier, Raymond found the envelope wedged between his screen door and the frame, the kind of placement that said this is important even before you read what's inside. He pulled it free with hands that still bore grease under the nails from 30 years of running a machine shop. The return address was a law office in Sacramento. The letter inside was 3 pages. Notice of legal action, outstanding account balance. Central Valley Irrigation Services claimed he owed $72,000 in unpaid water delivery fees dating back 7 years. The letter detailed dates, amounts, late penalties. It said he'd been receiving agricultural water through their system without payment. It demanded immediate remittance, or they'd file suit to place a lien on his property and seize assets. Raymond read it twice, standing in his driveway in Fresno's September heat. His property was 10 acres outside the city, a house, a barn, 2 acres of walnut trees he'd planted when Marcus was a boy, the rest native grass he kept mowed to reduce fire risk. He'd never used Central Valley's irrigation service. His trees ran on well water. Always had. He called the number on the letterhead. A receptionist transferred him to accounts receivable. A woman named Donna answered. "Mr. Webb, according to our records, your property is within our service district. You've been receiving water through Lateral Canal 7B since 2017. I don't have a connection to any canal. Our records show your records are wrong. I've got a well. Sir, if you'd like to dispute this, you'll need to provide documentation to our legal department. In the meantime, the balance remains due. I'm not paying for something I didn't use. Then I suggest you contact the attorney listed in the notice. We've turned this over to collections." He drove out to the property's western edge that afternoon, where the canal ran along the boundary. It was a concrete-lined channel, 20 feet wide, carrying water south from the San Joaquin River to farms throughout the valley. His land bordered it for a quarter mile. There was no connection, no gate, no pipe, no pump, just the canal and his fence, separated by 10 feet of rocky ground. 2 weeks later, Marcus drove up from Los Angeles for the weekend. He was 43, worked in software, divorced. He'd been worried about Raymond since his mother died, kept trying to get him to sell the property and move closer to the city. Raymond showed him the letter. Marcus read it, frowning. "Have you talked to a lawyer?" "Can't afford one." "Dad, they're going to sue you for $72,000. "Let them. I didn't use their water." "Can you prove that?" Raymond hesitated. "My well records, I guess." "Will that be enough?" Raymond didn't answer. That evening, Marcus walked the property while Raymond made dinner. Pork chops, boiled potatoes, canned green beans. The same meal his mother used to make on Saturdays. Through the window, he watched his son crouch by the canal, examining the fence line. Marcus came back as Raymond was setting the table. "There's no connection," Marcus said. "Nothing even close." "I told you." "So why are they claiming you owe them?" Raymond sat down heavily. "Because someone made a mistake and they don't want to admit it. Or because they think you're old and alone and you'll just pay to make them go away." Raymond cut into his pork chop. "I'm not paying." The lawsuit arrived 3 weeks later. Central Valley Irrigation Services had filed in Superior Court. The complaint alleged 7 years of unpaid fees, added interest and penalties, and requested judgment for $72,000 plus legal costs. They'd attached what they claimed was a service map showing Raymond's property connected to Lateral Canal 7B. The map was wrong. It showed a connection that didn't exist. Raymond called Marcus that night. "They filed," he said. "I know. I got a call from their attorney's office. They want to schedule a settlement conference. I've got nothing to settle." "Dad, if you go to court without a lawyer, you'll lose. Judges side with documentation, and they've got paperwork. What do you have?" "The truth." "That's not how it works." After he hung up, Raymond sat in the kitchen, the same kitchen where he and Eleanor had raised Marcus, where they'd paid bills at this table for 40 years, where she'd died in a hospital bed they'd set up by the window so she could see her walnut trees. The trees were older now, thick-trunked and heavy with developing nuts. He'd planted them when Marcus was 7. Eleanor had said it was a waste of good land, but she'd helped him dig the holes anyway. He thought about the barn. His father had worked construction, died at 59 from a heart attack on a job site in 1984. Raymond had inherited his tools, stored them in the barn. He hadn't opened those cabinets in years. The next morning, he went looking. The barn smelled of dust and motor oil. His father's tools hung on pegboards, organized by type. Handsaws, hammers, levels. Below them, a row of metal cabinets, olive green, military surplus, bought cheap in the 70s. Raymond opened the first cabinet. Old receipts, faded and brittle. Tax returns from the 80s. A deed from when his father bought the property in 1966. He opened the second cabinet. More files. His father had been meticulous, kept everything. Property surveys, well permits, building permits for the house and barn. The third cabinet held water records. Raymond lifted out a folder labeled Water Rights, 1968. Inside were 3 documents clipped together. The first was an application to the California State Water Resources Control Board. The second was a certificate of appropriative water rights, dated March 15, 1968, granting his father permission to drill a well and extract groundwater for agricultural use. The third document was a letter from Central Valley Irrigation Services' predecessor company, Valley Water Delivery Incorporated, dated April 2, 1968. It acknowledged that Raymond's father had declined connection to their newly constructed lateral canal system, instead electing to maintain private well water rights as granted by the state. The letter explicitly stated that his father's property would not be assessed fees for canal water delivery. Raymond stared at the document. His hands were shaking. He called Marcus. Marcus arrived the following Saturday, driving straight from Los Angeles in morning traffic. Raymond met him at the door, the folder in his hands. "Read this," Raymond said. Marcus sat at the kitchen table and read the documents twice. When he looked up, his expression was careful. "This is from 1968. So, Dad, that's 56 years ago. Water laws changed. The company's changed. The system's changed. The rights haven't changed." Raymond's voice was firm. "Your grandfather secured those rights from the state. That letter says we're exempt from canal fees. It says Valley Water Delivery won't assess fees. That company doesn't exist anymore. Central Valley bought them. They inherited the obligations. Maybe, or maybe not." Marcus set the documents down. "You need to talk to a water rights attorney. I need to show this to the judge." "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because legal succession, corporate acquisitions, water rights transfers, these are complicated issues. You can't just walk into court with a 50-year-old letter and expect them to dismiss a $72,000 lawsuit." Raymond sat down across from him. Through the window, the walnut trees stood in perfect rows, leaves beginning to yellow with autumn. "I can't afford an attorney," Raymond said quietly. Marcus was silent for a moment. "I can help." "No. Dad," I said no. Raymond's voice was harder now. "You've got your own life. I'm not taking your money for this." "Then what are you going to do?" Raymond looked at the documents. "I'll represent myself." "You'll lose." "Maybe." Raymond met his son's eyes. "But I'll lose on my terms." The settlement conference was scheduled for a Thursday in October. Marcus took the day off work and drove up. He found his father in the kitchen, wearing his good shirt, a blue button-down Eleanor had bought him for their 50th anniversary. "You don't have to come," Raymond said. "Yes, I do." They drove to the courthouse in Raymond's pickup, a '96 Ford he'd maintained himself for 27 years. Marcus carried the folder with the water rights documents. The conference was held in a small room with a table and 6 chairs. Central Valley's attorney was already there, a woman in her 40s named Patricia Chun, with a leather portfolio and the kind of calm expression that came from winning most of the time. The mediator was a retired judge named Holloway, white-haired and patient. "Let's begin," Holloway said. "Ms. Chun, please summarize your client's position." Chun opened her portfolio. "Your Honor, Central Valley Irrigation Services has provided water delivery to Mr. Webb's property for 7 years to Lateral Canal 7B. Our records show consistent flow through the connection point serving his parcel. Mr. Webb has not paid for this service. The amount owed, with penalties and interest, is $72,000. Mr. Webb," Holloway turned to Raymond. "Your response." "There is no connection," Raymond said. "I don't use their water." Never have. Do you have documentation supporting this? Marcus placed the folder on the table. My grandfather secured water rights in 1968, Marcus said. These documents show he was granted permission to use well water and explicitly declined connection to the canal system. The irrigation company at that time confirmed his property would not be assessed fees. Chen glanced at the documents. Those are from a predecessor company that no longer exists. The current service map clearly shows. Your map is wrong, Raymond interrupted. Mr. Webb, Holloway said gently. Please let Ms. Chen finish. The current service map, Chen continued, was created using GPS surveying and county parcel data. It accurately reflects all properties receiving water from our system. Then your survey missed something, Marcus said. Because there's physically no connection on my father's property. We can prove it. How? Drive out there. Look for yourself. Chen frowned. Our engineer certified the connection based on water flow analysis. If water's going to that parcel, it's coming through our system. Or through as well, Marcus said, which he has state-certified rights to use. May I see those documents? Holloway asked. Marcus slid the folder across the table. Holloway read carefully, taking his time with each page. Chen leaned over, reading along. This is a 1968 appropriative rights certificate, Holloway said, and a letter from Valley Water Delivery acknowledging Mr. Webb's grandfather would maintain private water rights, which has no bearing on current operations, Chen said. Valley Water Delivery was acquired by Central Valley in 1994. The acquisition transferred assets and service obligations, not exemptions based on 50-year-old correspondence. The rights don't expire, Raymond said. The state granted them. The appropriative rights don't expire, Chen agreed. But that doesn't automatically exempt you from fees if you're also receiving canal water. You could be using both sources. I'm not. Your water use suggests otherwise. Marcus leaned forward. What water use? Chen pulled out another document. Agricultural water consumption records from the county show significant usage on Mr. Webb's parcel, consistent with 10 acres of irrigated walnut trees. That water has to come from somewhere. It comes from his well. Can you prove that? Marcus looked at his father. Raymond's face was tight. The well's metered, Raymond said. I have records. Bring them, Holloway said. Also, I'm ordering a physical site inspection. Ms. Chen, arrange for your engineer to visit Mr. Webb's property and document the alleged connection point. Mr. Webb, you'll be present. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks with findings. They drove home in silence. Halfway back, Marcus said, You have well meter records, right? In the barn. And they'll show all the water usage. Raymond didn't answer immediately. Should. The meter's old. Sometimes it sticks. Marcus closed his eyes. Dad, it still works. Just not always accurately. So your records might not match actual usage. They're close enough. Marcus stared out the window at the passing farmland, endless rows of crops stretching to the horizon, all of it depending on water, canal water, river water, groundwater pumped from an aquifer that was dropping an inch every year. If your records don't match the county's usage estimates, Marcus said slowly, they'll claim the difference came from their canal. Then we'll show them the connection doesn't exist. And if their engineer says it does? If they find some pipe or gate you didn't know about? There isn't one. You're sure? Raymond's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I'm sure. But driving home, watching his father's profile against the flat valley light, Marcus saw something he'd never seen before. Doubt. That evening, after Marcus returned to Los Angeles, Raymond walked the fence line in the fading light. The canal flowed past, dark water moving south through concrete walls. His fence ran parallel, 10 feet back. The ground between was rocky, undisturbed. No connection. But he thought about the meter, how it sometimes froze in winter, how he'd estimated usage when it wasn't working. He thought about Chen's calm certainty, her engineer's certification. He thought about $72,000. Inside, he made coffee and sat at the table. Eleanor's chair was still across from him, empty for 3 years now. She'd have known what to do. She always did. He opened the folder and read his father's documents again, the paper crackling under his fingers. The state seal. The letter acknowledging water rights. It had to be enough. The site inspection was scheduled for a Wednesday morning. Raymond was waiting when Chen arrived with a man carrying surveying equipment. Her engineer, introduced as Dale Pritchard, maybe 50, wearing boots and a company vest. Marcus had driven up the night before. He stood beside his father as Pritchard set up a transit near the canal. "We'll start at the documented connection point," Pritchard said, checking his tablet. "According to our service map, it should be approximately here." He pointed to a spot along the fence line, about 100 yards south of where they stood. They walked down. Raymond's throat was tight. Pritchard examined the fence, then the ground on both sides. He walked back and forth, checking his tablet against the physical location. "There's no visible connection," he said finally. "That's what I'd been saying," Raymond said. "But the water flow analysis indicates." Pritchard stopped. He was looking at something on his tablet, frowning. "What?" Chen asked. "The GPS coordinates don't match." He looked up. "This isn't the right property." Silence. "What do you mean?" Chen's voice was sharp. Pritchard walked north along the fence line, checking coordinates. 50 yards up, he stopped. "The service map has the wrong parcel number. The connection point is on the adjacent property, east side of the canal, not west." Raymond felt something loosen in his chest. Chen stared at her engineer. "You certified this connection." "I certified water flow to parcel APN 042-330-18. That's this parcel number, according to the map you gave me." "Show me." Pritchard pulled up the service map on his tablet. Chen leaned in, her expression darkening. "The parcel numbers were transposed," Pritchard said. "This should be 042-330-81. That property's across the canal, the almond farm. They've been receiving water for 7 years. This parcel," he gestured at Raymond's land, "has no connection." Chen's jaw tightened. She looked at Raymond, then at Marcus, then back at her engineer. "You're telling me we sued the wrong property owner?" "I'm telling you someone entered the wrong parcel number in the database. I surveyed the coordinates I was given." Marcus let out a breath. Raymond said nothing, but his hands were shaking. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned to Raymond. "Mr. Webb, it appears there's been an administrative error. Central Valley will be withdrawing the lawsuit and issuing a formal apology." "And the fees?" Marcus asked. "There are no fees. Mr. Webb was never connected to our system." Chen's voice was professional, but tight with controlled anger. "We'll confirm this in writing within 48 hours. She turned to her engineer. "We need to talk. Now." They walked back to Chen's car. Through the fence, Raymond could see the almond farm across the canal. Acres of trees in perfect rows, irrigation lines visible between them. He'd met the owner once, years ago. Nice enough man, younger than Raymond, probably hadn't noticed the irrigation fees buried in his operating costs. "Dad," Marcus touched his shoulder. "I'm okay." Raymond's voice was rough. "You were right. The whole time." "No." Raymond looked at his son. "Your grandfather was right. He kept those records because he knew paper matters. I just got lucky they mattered now." They walked back to the house. At the barn, Raymond stopped and looked at the metal cabinets. "Your grandmother wanted me to throw these out," he said. "After your grandfather died. Said they were taking up space." "Why didn't you?" "Felt wrong. He spent his whole life filling those cabinets. Seemed disrespectful to just toss them." Marcus looked at his father, 76 years old, still strong but graying, standing in the shadow of a barn his own father had built. "I'm glad you didn't," Marcus said. The withdrawal letter arrived 2 days later, overnight delivery. Central Valley Irrigation Services formally retracted all claims, apologized for the error, and confirmed Raymond Webb owed nothing and never had. A second letter came from the company's president, expressing personal regret and explaining they'd corrected their parcel database and were reviewing all service connections for similar errors. Raymond filed both letters in the metal cabinet, in a new folder labeled Irrigation Dispute, 2024. His father would have approved. Marcus drove up that weekend with his kids, Raymond's grandchildren, 12 and 9. They played in the yard while Marcus and Raymond sat on the porch, drinking iced tea in the October warmth. "You going to stay here?" Marcus asked. "Where else would I go?" "Closer to us. Somewhere easier." Raymond looked at the walnut trees, heavy with nuts ready for harvest. "Your mother's buried here. Your grandfather. This is where we built our life." "I know. Besides," Raymond said, "someone's got to keep those cabinets organized." Marcus smiled. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the grandchildren climb the walnut trees his father had planted 40 years ago. That evening, after Marcus and the kids left, Raymond walked out to the trees. The sun was setting, painting the valley in orange and gold. His well pump hummed quietly, drawing water from 200 feet down, water his father had secured the rights to use, water that had sustained these trees and this land for decades. He touched the bark of the nearest tree, rough under his palm. Eleanor had helped plant this one. He remembered her laughing, dirt on her knees, saying 10 acres of walnuts was too ambitious. But the trees had grown. They'd survived droughts and freezes, produced harvests, stood witness to a life lived in one place. Raymond walked back to the house as darkness settled over the valley. Inside, he made dinner, the same pork chops and potatoes Eleanor used to make, and ate alone at the kitchen table. Through the window, he could just see the canal, dark water flowing south in the night. Someone else's water, serving someone else's land. His own water came from deep in the earth, pulled up by a pump his father had installed, sustained by rights his father had secured with patience and paperwork half a century ago. Some inheritances, Raymond thought as he washed his dishes, were worth more than money. Some were worth more than land. Some were worth everything. He dried the dishes and put them away, checked the locks, turned off the lights. In the bedroom, Eleanor's reading glasses still sat on her nightstand. He left them there, like always, and went to sleep. Outside, the well pump hummed in the darkness, drawing water from stone, sustaining trees that would outlive them all.